Winning starts in the mind. The way you think shapes the way you act. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have in any situation. These words are not just ideas, they are truths we all need to live by. Every challenge you face, every opportunity you want to grab, begins with how you train your mind. It is your mindset that decides whether you stand tall or fall down when life tests you. Imagine waking up each day with confidence and clarity. Imagine handling stress and pressure without breaking. This is not about luck or talent. It is about training your mind to respond, to stay focused, and to win no matter what comes your way. If you are ready to take control of your thoughts and start winning in every situation, then let's dive in. Chapter 1. Master the thoughts that control your actions. You want to win in life. Then you've got to start at the source. Your mind. Everything begins there. What you think becomes how you feel. How you feel becomes what you do. And what you do determines your results. That's the chain. If you want to change the outcome, you don't start with your actions, you start with your thoughts. Most people wake up every day and they're not in control of what they think. Their mind wanders. It picks up negativity from the news, doubt from past failures, stress from unfinished plans, and fear from the unknown. And when the mind is left on its own without direction, it doesn't default to strength. It defaults to survival, and survival mode isn't where winning happens. Winning takes clarity, it takes awareness, it takes discipline. Now think about this. Every single action you've ever taken was first shaped by a thought. Whether you decided to get up early or stay in bed, whether you approached someone with confidence or avoided them in fear, whether you stuck to your plan or gave in to distraction, it all started with what you told yourself. That internal voice, the way you talk to yourself, is the steering wheel of your life. You master that, and you master everything else. You see, the people who win in life don't have more talent. They don't always have more time. What they do have is a stronger filter. They train their minds to reject what doesn't serve them. When a weak thought shows up, the kind that says, "You're not good enough," or "You'll probably fail," they don't entertain it. They recognize it for what it is, just a thought, not a fact, not a truth, just noise. And they've trained themselves to replace that noise with something useful, with something that builds rather than breaks. So the first thing to understand is this. Your thoughts aren't you, they're suggestions, they're patterns, and most of them have been picked up from your past, your environment, or other people. If you don't take control of them, they'll take control of you, and you won't even notice it. That's the dangerous part. You'll think you're deciding, but really your old thoughts are deciding for you. Now imagine someone who's been told since childhood, "You're not smart enough." If they accept that thought, it becomes part of their identity. Later in life, when an opportunity comes to speak up, they stay quiet, not because they don't have something to say, but because their mind says, "Why try? You're not smart enough." That's how powerful thoughts are. They create invisible walls. But the good news, you can break those walls. You can install new thoughts, better thoughts, stronger ones. And over time, those new thoughts will shape new actions. But it's not about just thinking positively. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not ignoring problems. We're not pretending everything's fine. No, this is about thinking powerfully, thinking clearly, thinking in ways that help you take the next right step. You see, every day your brain is processing thousands of pieces of information, and in that flood of input, your mind has to make quick decisions, what to focus on, what to ignore, what to believe, and what to doubt. The people who win have trained their minds to focus on what they can control, not what they can't. On what's possible, not what's missing. On solutions, not just problems. That's a skill, and it's built one thought at a time. Now here's something that might hit you hard. You've been thinking the same thoughts every day for years. They've become habits. If you want to change your life, you have to interrupt that pattern. You have to question those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this belief true, or have I just accepted it without proof? This kind of inner work takes time. It takes patience. But once you start, you begin to realize how much power you actually have. Let's say you're facing a tough situation. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's personal. Most people panic. They start thinking the worst. But a trained mind does something different. It pauses, it breathes, it steps back, and it says, what's real here? What do I know for sure? What can I do today? That kind of thinking gives you a sense of control, even in chaos. And that control leads to action. That's where confidence is born, not from pretending you're never afraid, but from knowing you can respond even when you are. You also need to know this. Your emotions are not the enemy, they're signals. When you feel anxious, it's usually because your thoughts are racing into the future. When you feel regret, your thoughts are stuck in the past. But the present moment, that's where your power is. And you only get there by guiding your mind back, again and again. That's why meditation, journaling, even just 10 minutes of silence every day, those things matter. They're not luxuries. They're practices for training your focus, for calming the noise, for noticing what your mind is doing. There's a reason high performers, athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, they all take mental training seriously because they know that pressure exposes what you've practiced. If your mind isn't trained, pressure will break you. But if your mind is trained, pressure reveals your strength. You become calm when others panic. You become focused when others are distracted. That's not magic, that's training. You can't expect to control outcomes in life, but you can control how you show up, and how you show up starts in your mind. You feed it daily, you protect it from negativity, you challenge it when it slips into weakness, and you celebrate every win, no matter how small, because each one builds momentum. You've got to get honest with yourself. What thoughts are running your life right now? Are they helping you rise? Or are they keeping you small? Are they yours, or were they handed to you by someone else? And if they're not serving you, then it's time to replace them. Because you deserve to live with clarity. You deserve to act with purpose. You deserve to win, not by chance but by choice. And that choice begins every morning, when you wake up and decide what kind of thoughts you're going to live with. That's the real game. Win the mind, and you win everything else. Chapter 2. Break free from old mental patterns today. Every person carries patterns in their mind, ways of thinking that have been repeated so many times they feel automatic. These patterns aren't always helpful. In fact, many of them hold you back. Some patterns were formed years ago. Maybe you picked them up from your parents, from a teacher, from an experience that shaped you at a young age. Others developed from your reactions to failure, rejection, or disappointment. Over time, your brain begins to link certain feelings with certain thoughts, and if you don't interrupt them, they begin to run the show. They become the script you follow, without even realizing you're following it. You may not notice it, but when a challenge shows up, your mind probably already knows how it's going to respond. Maybe it shrinks back. Maybe it looks for something or someone to blame. Maybe it immediately predicts the worst. That's not because you're weak. It's because your mind learned that response a long time ago, and it's been practicing it ever since. The longer you run that pattern, the deeper it gets. It becomes a groove in your thinking. And the only way out of that groove is to create a new one. But here's what most people don't understand. Breaking a mental pattern doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen just because you want it to. It happens when you catch the pattern in the moment, and you choose differently. It takes awareness. And awareness doesn't come from rushing through your day, reacting to everything. It comes from slowing down enough to actually notice what you're thinking and how you're feeling when something happens. Let's say you face a setback. Maybe a plan falls apart. Maybe someone criticizes you. If your old pattern says, "This always happens to me," and you believe it, you go down a familiar path. You feel discouraged. You hesitate. You question your worth. But if you pause and say, "Hold on, this is the old voice showing up again," now you've got a moment of choice. That one moment matters. It's small, but it's powerful. That's where the shift begins. The key is to understand that these patterns don't define you. They're just habits your brain has repeated over time. The brain loves efficiency. It wants to use energy the least amount possible, so it runs familiar thoughts and emotions like a shortcut. But winning in life doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from clarity. And clarity takes effort. You have to start paying attention to how you think when you're under pressure. What's the first thought that shows up when something goes wrong? What's the feeling that follows? What do you usually do next? That cycle is your old wiring, and the only way to rewire it is to break the cycle step by step. This is not about ignoring your emotions or pretending you don't feel them. It's about not letting those emotions lead the way. It's about taking back control of the direction your mind is going. There's no fast fix to this, no shortcut. This is the kind of work that happens day by day, thought by thought. It's about giving yourself permission to challenge what's always been there. Maybe you've always believed you're not good with people, or you've told yourself you're not a leader, or that you'll never be financially successful. Those beliefs didn't come from nowhere. They were formed by moments, but they don't have to become your future. You can decide what to believe now. You can rebuild your mental habits starting today. One of the most important steps is catching yourself when your mind slips into an old reaction. Maybe you're in a conversation and someone disagrees with you. Your old pattern might be to shut down or lash out. But if you notice that impulse and pause for just a second, you create a new option. You can respond with calm. You can ask a question instead of making a defense. That's how you take power back, by making conscious decisions where you used to just react. Another way to break free from old mental loops is to question your automatic thoughts. Don't just accept the first thing your mind tells you. If you think, "I'll never figure this out," stop and ask, is that really true? Or is that just what I'm used to thinking? Most of the time, that thought isn't a fact. It's a feeling, and feelings aren't always true. Just because it feels difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. Just because it feels scary doesn't mean you shouldn't move forward. It's also critical to build new references. That means doing things, even small things, that go against your old story. If your pattern says, "You always quit," then do something today that proves that wrong. Stay with a task a little longer. Follow through on something simple. Every time you do that, you weaken the old belief and strengthen a new one. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about becoming aware of the patterns that have held you back and replacing them with ones that push you forward. You might feel resistance when you do this. That's normal. The brain doesn't like change at first. It wants to go back to what's familiar. But the discomfort you feel when you challenge your old thinking, that's a sign of growth. That means you're on the right track. That means you're doing something different, and different is exactly what you need if you want a different life. It's also helpful to speak your new thoughts out loud. The mind listens. If you've spent years thinking, "I'm not capable," then you need to say the opposite. Not once, but every day, you need to hear yourself say it. You need to hear strength in your own voice. The more you affirm the kind of person you're becoming, the more your brain starts to build that version of you. And don't underestimate the power of your environment. If you're always around people who reinforce your old patterns, people who expect you to stay the same, it will be harder to break free. You need people who see your potential. People who speak to your strength, not your fear. Sometimes that means choosing distance. Sometimes it means seeking out new voices, new ideas, new energy. Because your mind is shaped by what you surround yourself with. It's shaped by what you allow in. Chapter 3. Respond. Don't react. Stay in control. Most people go through life without ever learning how to manage what happens inside them. They get triggered easily, they lose their temper, they shut down, or they panic when things don't go their way. They react without thinking, and then spend hours, days, or even years dealing with the damage those reactions cause. But here's something most never hear clearly enough. If you don't take charge of your emotions will take charge of you. If you want to live a steady, strong, meaningful life, you've got to learn the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is instant. It's automatic. It comes from the part of you that's trying to protect itself. But protection isn't always the right move. Sometimes the very thing you're protecting yourself from is the growth you need. When you react, you hand your power over to the moment. You let your environment, other people, or stressful situations decide your next move. That's not control. That's being controlled. Responding is the opposite. It's intentional. It comes from a place of strength, not fear. When you respond, you pause before you speak. You think before you move. You ask yourself, what's the best way to handle this, instead of just doing what you've always done. That one pause, that tiny moment between stimulus and action, is where self-mastery is born. It's where the gap between your old habits and your new future lives. Think about the last time you got upset. Maybe someone said something that triggered you. Maybe something didn't go as planned. What did your mind do? What did your body feel? Did you take a breath, or did you lash out? Did you try to understand the moment, or did you instantly go into defense mode? This is what happens when you don't train yourself. You don't just feel emotion. You become the emotion. And when you become the emotion, you lose sight of reason. You can't think clearly. You can't solve problems. You just react. Now imagine living differently. Imagine being in the same situation, but instead of reacting, you step back. You take a breath. You allow the feeling to pass through without controlling your actions. That's not weakness. That's real strength. Because anyone can react. That doesn't take skill, but staying calm in the storm. That takes discipline. That takes work. People often say, I just couldn't help it. I was too angry. I was too stressed. But the truth is, they didn't train themselves to respond. You can learn to notice what's happening inside you before it controls what happens outside you. You can learn to keep your cool in the middle of chaos. That's not something you're born with. It's something you build, and you build it one moment at a time. Start by becoming more aware of your triggers. What sets you off? Who do you tend to react around? What situations throw you off balance? Write those down. Pay attention to the patterns, because if you don't know what your triggers are, you'll keep walking into them unprepared, and each time your mind will go straight into the same old reaction. But when you recognize those patterns ahead of time, you can plan a better response. You also have to practice being still. Not every emotion needs a reply. Not every disagreement needs your defense. Not every bad mood needs to turn into a meltdown. Sometimes silence is power. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is nothing, at least for a few minutes. Let the wave pass. Let the heat fade. Then speak. Then act. That's how you train yourself to respond, not react. It helps to have questions ready for these moments. When you feel the pressure rise, ask yourself, what matters most right now? Or what outcome am I really trying to create here? Those kinds of questions interrupt the emotional momentum and shift your focus. They remind you of your bigger goal, peace, connection, progress, whatever it may be. That moment of reflection gives you the clarity to respond with intention instead of emotion. There will be moments when people misunderstand you, when things feel unfair, when someone else is careless with their words or actions. But if you react to everything, you hand them control, you let them pull your strings, and that's not the life you want. You want a mind that stays strong, even when things get messy. You want a heart that stays open, even when it hurts. That kind of strength isn't loud, it's quiet, it's steady, and it's built in private moments when no one's watching, but you still choose self-control. People often think responding means being soft or passive, but it's not. It's choosing the right move over the easy one. It's walking away when your pride wants to argue. It's holding back a harsh word when you know it'll do more harm than good. It's speaking with clarity, instead of shouting out of frustration. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. When you respond, you're not just protecting others, you're protecting yourself. You're building trust in your own ability to handle life. That trust compounds. Over time, it builds confidence. You stop fearing conflict, because you know how to face it. You stop dreading stress, because you know how to stay calm inside it. That's the kind of power that lasts. This isn't about pretending to be emotionless. It's about staying aware of what's driving your decisions. If it's anger, fear, or ego, you pause. If it's clarity, purpose, or strength, you move. That discipline makes the difference between a life you regret and a life you're proud of. You also begin to influence the people around you when you respond, not react. Your calm sets the tone. Your steady presence helps others feel safe. People trust someone who doesn't explode under pressure. They look up to someone who can stay grounded when things get tense. So in a way, learning to respond isn't just for you, it's for the people who count on you too. Every day life will give you reasons to react. Traffic, arguments, delays, disrespect. But you have the power to choose your energy. You have the ability to decide what kind of person you want to be, even when things aren't perfect, especially when they aren't. You don't rise by controlling what happens outside. You rise by mastering what happens inside. That doesn't come from reading a quote or hearing a speech. It comes from practice, real life moments, real challenges, and each time you respond with control, you get stronger. You start to respect yourself more. You start to trust your own decisions more. Chapter 4. Focus on what you can control. Only every single day, life brings uncertainty. Things happen that you didn't plan. People say and do things you don't expect. Outcomes turn out different than what you hoped for, And the truth is, you can't control any of it, not the weather, not the market, not someone else's opinion, not even what's already happened. But you can control how you show up. You can control how you respond, what you focus on, and what you choose to give your time and energy to. And that choice, where you put your focus, is what decides your peace, your direction, and your results. There are two types of people in life. One group spends most of their time worrying about things outside of their control. They're always stressed about what might go wrong. They overthink what others think. They argue about things they can't change. They waste energy on things that don't move their life forward. The other group takes all that energy and puts it into what they can do, their own actions, their own discipline, their own mindset. And because of that, they move faster, feel lighter, and build a stronger life. Now ask yourself, where's your focus been? Are you caught up in the things that frustrate you but you can't change? Or are you putting energy into your habits, your choices, your effort? Because whatever you focus on, that's what grows. If you constantly focus on what's out of reach, you'll feel helpless. If you keep thinking about everything that's wrong, you'll start to feel stuck. But if you shift your focus to the part of the day you can control, your actions, your words, your attention, you'll begin to feel powerful again. You don't get to decide what kind of day it's going to be, but you do decide how you're going to approach it. You can't control how someone treats you, but you can control how you treat others. You can't force an opportunity to appear, but you can be the kind of person who's ready when it does. That kind of mindset puts you back in charge, not of the world, but of yourself. And that's where real change starts. It's easy to get distracted. Social media, the news, people's opinions, they all pull at your attention. They feed your fear. They stir up frustration. And when you give your focus to those things, you weaken your ability to build your own life. You stop taking action, you start overthinking, you start blaming. But none of that builds anything real. None of that improves your situation. It only leaves you exhausted, confused, and further behind. So what do you do instead? You draw a line. You say to yourself, I will no longer spend time on things I can't control. You stop trying to change people who don't want to change. You stop trying to rewrite the past. You stop waiting for perfect timing. And instead, you start showing up fully where you do have power, in your own space, with your own choices. You choose to focus on effort, not outcome. Because the outcome isn't always up to you, but the effort always is. You don't get to control whether the world sees your value right away, but you can control whether you keep showing up with integrity and excellence. And eventually, that consistency pays off. Not because the world changed, but because you stayed focused. A big part of this is learning to accept what is, not to give up, but to stop fighting the parts of life that aren't yours to fix. Acceptance brings clarity. When you stop wasting energy on what you can't change, you suddenly have more energy for what you can. You start moving forward instead of spinning in circles. It also means taking full responsibility for your role, not in a heavy self-critical way, but in a strong, clear way. If something isn't working in your life, ask yourself, what part of this can I change today? Maybe it's your schedule, maybe it's your focus, maybe it's your attitude. There is always something within your reach. It may be small, it may be simple, but if you do it every day, it adds up. People often wait for external things to improve before they take action. They wait for the economy to get better, for people to support them, for life to slow down. But those things might never happen. You don't have to wait. You don't have to live at the mercy of things you weren't meant to control. You were meant to lead your life, not react to it. You were meant to direct your focus, not have it pulled away by everything loud and urgent. You have more control than you think. You get to decide what kind of energy you bring into a room. You get to decide what you believe about yourself, even if no one else sees it yet. You get to decide how much effort you give, how kind you are, how committed you remain when it's hard. That's where your power is. And that's enough to change everything. There will always be problems outside of your reach. Always. But peace doesn't come from solving every one of them. It comes from narrowing your focus and living with intention. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to fix every situation. You just need to stay true to your principles, show up with strength, and do your part with excellence. That's more than enough. When you live this way, your mind gets clearer, your heart gets lighter. You stop blaming. You stop comparing. You stop getting pulled into drama that has nothing to do with your purpose. And instead you start rising. You start building. You start becoming. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. Because when you learn to focus on what's in your hands get stronger. Your life gets simpler. Your direction gets sharper. You stop being reactive, and you become intentional. And from that place, you build the kind of life you can be proud of, not by trying to control the world, but by mastering the part of it that belongs to you. That's the shift. That's the lesson. Focus where you can move. Work where you can grow. Stay in your lane. Protect your energy. Guard your attention. Show up fully in what's yours, and let the rest go. You'll find peace, progress, and power all waiting for you on the other side of that decision. Chapter 5. Build mental strength through small daily wins. Mental strength isn't something you're born with. It's not some rare gift that only a few people have. It's something you earn through effort, through discipline, through what you choose to do when nobody's watching. And you don't build it by making giant leaps once in a while. You build it by showing up every single day and stacking small wins one after another until you become someone different. Someone solid. Someone who doesn't break under pressure. Someone who keeps going even when it's hard. The truth is, most people think mental toughness is about doing something extreme. They wait for a challenge big enough to prove themselves. But the real work happens in the small moments. It's in getting up early when you don't feel like it. It's in saying no to distractions when it would be easier to give in. It's in pushing yourself to do the thing you said you'd do, even when your mood has changed. That's where real strength is built. Quietly, consistently. It's the decisions you make when no one is clapping. It's the discipline you stick to when nobody's checking in on you. That's the weight room for your mind. And every time you follow through on something small, your confidence grows. You send a message to yourself, I can count on me. And that message, repeated day after day, rewires your identity. You stop being someone who doubts. You start becoming someone who acts. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they have to wait for motivation to act. But motivation comes and goes. Some days you feel inspired. Other days you don't. You can't build anything steady on a foundation that wobbles. What you can build on is momentum. And the way to build momentum is through daily wins, small victories that you choose, that you create, and that you finish. Wake up and make your bed. That's a win. Stick to your plan for the day. That's a win. Go for that walk, read that page, finish that workout, follow through on that task. Each one adds a layer. Each one stacks a brick. You may not see the result immediately, but the strength is being built. The discipline is taking root. And before you know it, you've created something solid inside you. The beauty of small wins is that they're always available. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to wait for the weekend or the new year. You can win today, right where you are with what you've got. The only thing that stands between you and progress is the choice to act right now. But don't just go through the motions. Be intentional. Celebrate the win, even if it's small. Tell yourself that matters. Because when you ignore small wins, you weaken your momentum. But when you recognize them, even quietly, you build self-respect. You feel stronger because you did what you said you'd do. And remember this, mental strength isn't about never feeling tired or frustrated. It's about showing up despite those feelings. It's about proving to yourself that your emotions don't run the show. You do. You call the shots. And the way you prove that is by winning the small battles. The ones that seem unimportant, but actually shape who you become. You don't need to compare your progress to anyone else's. Their wins aren't yours to chase. What matters is, did you do better than yesterday? Did you push yourself a little further? Did you show up even when it was easier to check out? That's the scoreboard that matters. That's the standard that builds pride. There's power in knowing that you're in charge of your effort. No one else can give that to you, and no one can take it away. That's yours. The way you think, the way you train your focus, the way you show up for yourself, that belongs to you. And when you start to see the results of those small efforts, you realize something important. You don't need to rely on motivation or luck. You've built a system. You've built habits. You've built yourself. This kind of strength changes how you face challenges. Instead of panicking or shutting down, you step forward. You trust your training. You know you've done the work. And that calm, that quiet confidence comes from everything you did in private. It comes from every early morning, every late night, every time you chose discipline over comfort. And yes, there will be setbacks. There will be days where you slip, where you miss the mark. That doesn't erase your progress. What matters is what you do next. Do you give up, or do you reset and go again? Mental strength means you don't let one bad day become a bad week. It means you know how to get back on track without beating yourself up. You keep going. You keep stacking. You keep winning the day. And the more you do this, the more you start to believe in your own strength. Not because someone told you you're strong, but because you've earned it. You've seen what you're capable of. You've faced resistance and pushed through. And that belief, that deep earned confidence, can't be taken from you. Small wins build identity. They build a sense of pride that doesn't depend on outside approval. When you look back and realize how far you've come, you won't remember every single task, but you will remember the discipline. You'll remember how you used to avoid hard things, and now you walk into them. You'll remember how you used to doubt yourself, and now you act with certainty. That transformation starts now. Not tomorrow, not next month. Now look at your life and ask, where can I win today? Pick something doable. Stick to it. Finish it. Then do it again tomorrow. That rhythm, day after day, will shape your future. Not because one task changes everything, but because the habit of winning changes you. Chapter 6. Use challenges to strengthen your inner game. Life will test you. That's not a maybe. It's a certainty. You will face setbacks. You will run into obstacles. You will deal with failure, loss, pressure, and moments that shake your confidence. But the question is never about what happens to you. It's about what you do with it. Because every challenge holds an opportunity, not just to survive it, but to use it to strengthen the part of you that no one sees. Your mindset, your perspective, your discipline, that's your inner game. And that's where your real power lives. Most people don't see challenges this way. They see them as interruptions, as punishment, as signs that something is wrong. They get frustrated. They complain. They fall into self-pity. And the moment they do, they miss the lesson. They miss the growth. They miss the opportunity to get better. Because growth doesn't happen when everything is easy. Growth happens when you're under pressure and you choose to stay grounded. Growth happens when things get hard and you still show up strong. Challenges reveal who you are, but more than that, they shape who you become. When things fall apart, you're forced to decide, will I rise or will I collapse? Will I learn or will I stay bitter? That choice, repeated over time, builds something deep inside you. A calm confidence, a solid foundation, a mind that doesn't panic every time life doesn't go as planned. You see, your inner game is what carries you when everything else is uncertain. It's the voice that says, keep going when quitting feels easier. It's the discipline that stays intact, even when motivation disappears. It's the belief in yourself, built from every hard moment you faced and didn't run from. That's the kind of strength that doesn't fade. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need applause. But it wins. Every time. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in life is to stop avoiding discomfort and start leaning into it. Discomfort is where growth lives. It's where you sharpen your focus, test your habits, and push beyond your limits. It's not about seeking pain. It's about realizing that pressure is a part of progress. Every challenge is a weight, and when you carry it with the right mindset, it makes you stronger. But you have to stop seeing challenges as unfair. Life isn't fair or unfair. It's just life. The question is, what are you going to do with what it gives you? Some people face setbacks and fall apart. Others face the same setbacks and build themselves up from the inside out. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's how they think. They look at the problem and ask, what is this here to teach me? How can I grow from this? And those questions shift their focus from weakness to strength. When you train your mind to find purpose in the pain, something shifts. Instead of seeing problems as roadblocks, you begin to see them as training grounds. You begin to view difficulty as part of your preparation. Every time life puts resistance in your path, it's giving you a chance to become more resilient, more focused, and more grounded in who you are. This mindset doesn't mean the pain goes away. It means the pain doesn't control you. You still feel it, but you decide how you respond to it. You use it. You grow from it. You don't wait for comfort to come back. You build strength while you're in the storm. One way to sharpen your inner game is to ask better questions when things go wrong. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what's my next move? Instead of saying, this isn't fair, say, this is hard, but I'm capable. That kind of thinking doesn't make you soft. It makes you sharp. It keeps you from falling into victim mode. It pulls your focus back to what you can control, and that's always where your power is. Another key is to stop attaching your worth to outcomes. You're not your results. You're not your achievements. You're who you become in the process. Sometimes things don't work out, even when you do everything right. That's life. But if you keep your character strong, your habits consistent, and your standards high, you still win, because your inner foundation stays solid. Think about the people you respect the most. It's probably not because their life was easy. It's because they stayed strong through adversity. They held their values. They didn't let difficulty shake their core. That kind of strength inspires others, not because it's flashy, but because it's real. And you can build that kind of strength, starting now. You do it by embracing pressure, not avoiding it. You do it by deciding that you won't let struggle steal your focus. You do it by using every challenge as a mirror, to see where you need to grow, to test your patience, to develop more grit. Don't wait for challenges to disappear. They won't. Life is unpredictable. People change, plans fall apart. But your inner game, your mindset, your work ethic, your commitment, that can stay steady, that can get better. That's the one thing no one can take from you. This approach doesn't make you cold. It makes you steady. It makes you dependable. People will start to notice that you don't fall apart when things go sideways. You think clearly. You speak with calm. You act with intention. That presence comes from inner work. And it's built through challenge, not in spite of it. Start by looking at your current situation. Whatever you're facing right now, ask yourself, what's this here to build in me? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's endurance. Maybe it's self-respect. Don't rush to fix it. Sit with it. Learn from it. Use it. That shift in thinking will separate you from the masses who run from every hard moment. Every time you face something tough and keep your composure, you're building something deep. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you add strength. And every time you get knocked down, but get back up, you prove to yourself that nothing owns you. Not failure, not fear, not even pain. You're not training for the easy life. You're training for the real one. And in the real world, storms come. Plans break. People disappoint. But with a strong inner game, you remain steady. You lead yourself. You keep showing up. You keep building. And eventually you look back and realize that the challenges didn't break you. They built you. Chapter 7. Train your mind to stay calm under pressure. Pressure will always be a part of life. It shows up in moments that matter. It shows up when there's risk, when there's responsibility, and when something is on the line. But pressure itself is not the problem. The real issue is how you handle it. Some people crumble, some freeze, others panic, overthink, and sabotage the very moment they've worked for. But the few who learn to stay calm under pressure, those are the ones who stand out. Those are the ones who rise when it counts. Not because life got easier, but because they trained their mind to stay steady when it mattered most. Staying calm in pressure isn't natural at first. The brain's first response is to protect, not perform. Your heart races, your breathing shortens, your thoughts scatter. You start imagining everything that could go wrong. But if you don't train yourself, your emotions will drive the moment. And when emotions take over, logic disappears. That's why you've got to train your mind. Not when pressure hits, but long before. Calm isn't something you switch on. It's something you build. It's a muscle. You strengthen it by putting yourself in difficult situations and practicing presence. You breathe deeper. You slow your thoughts. You talk to yourself in a way that settles your nerves instead of feeding your fear. That's the work. That's the training. And the better you get at it, the more control you gain when pressure is at its peak. When a big moment comes, you won't always feel ready. That's normal. But your job isn't to get rid of the nerves. It's to stay grounded in the middle of them. Most people try to escape pressure. They avoid situations where they might mess up, where they might be judged, or where they feel the weight of responsibility. But if you always run from pressure, you stay small. You never discover what you're capable of. Growth only happens when you stay in the fire and learn how to breathe. There's no secret to calm. There's only preparation. The people who look calm aren't special. They just practiced more. They rehearsed the situation in their mind. They prepared their body through repetition. They visualized success, not failure. So when the pressure came, It wasn't a surprise, it was a familiar place. It didn't knock them off balance because they expected it, they accepted it, and they knew what to do with it. If you want to stay calm under pressure, start with your breath. Sounds simple, but it works. When your breath is shallow, your mind races, your body tenses. You can't think clearly, but when you slow your breathing, deep in through the nose, out through the mouth, you send a signal to your nervous system, I'm in control. You quiet the storm before it spreads. That one action can reset everything in seconds. Next, control your self-talk. What you say to yourself in a high-pressure moment matters. If your inner voice is saying, "This is too much," or "What if I fail?" you're feeding panic. You're making it harder to stay calm. But if you say, "I've trained for this," or "Stay present," or "One step at a time," you bring yourself back to the moment. You shift from fear to focus. And that's where calm lives, in the present, not in the what-ifs. You also need to anchor yourself. That means keeping your mind attached to something steady when things feel overwhelming. It could be your breathing, a word, a task, or a visual cue. Something small that keeps you from spiraling. When your mind tries to run in every direction, you bring it back to that anchor, over and over, until the noise quiets down. There's also value in preparation. The more prepared you are, the calmer you'll be. That doesn't mean you eliminate all nerves, but you reduce panic. You walk into the situation knowing you've done your work. You know the steps. You know your process. That kind of preparation builds trust in yourself. And that trust gives you something to lean on when everything else feels uncertain. Some pressure is expected. It shows that what you're doing matters, but pressure doesn't have to crush you. It can sharpen you. It can push you to be better, but only if you handle it with presence, only if you stop trying to avoid it and start learning how to perform through it. And remember, staying calm doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you keep your emotions in check. It means you don't let fear write your story. It means you make decisions from clarity, not chaos. Calm is about controlling your internal world, no matter what's going on outside of you. This applies to every area of life: work, relationships, goals, leadership. The people who win in the long run are the ones who can stay composed in crisis, stay focused in chaos, and stay steady in uncertainty. That doesn't come from being fearless. It comes from being trained. You also have to watch your environment. If you're surrounded by people who panic under pressure, their energy can pull you in. But if you're around people who stay composed, who breathe through the storm and respond with intention, you learn by watching. You pick up their habits. You see what control looks like. And slowly, you start to model it in your own life. Staying calm under pressure also requires perspective. Sometimes the moment feels bigger than it really is. You tell yourself this is everything, that this is make or break, and that pressure grows. But if you step back, you realize it's just a moment. It matters, yes, but it's not the only thing that defines you. That perspective can take the edge off. It reminds you that no matter what happens, you'll figure it out. You've faced things before, and you'll do it again. When you train yourself to stay calm, you don't just perform better. You live better. You stop overreacting. You stop making emotional decisions you later regret. You stop feeding stress that doesn't belong to you. You lead yourself better. You lead others better. Because in a world that's noisy, fast, and often overwhelming, calm is a superpower. Start practicing now. You don't need a crisis to build this skill. Train in the little moments. when you're running late, when someone pushes your buttons, when plans fall apart. Those are the reps. Those are the moments to breathe, to slow down, to speak with intention, to act from clarity. Every one of those is a chance to build that calm muscle. Chapter 8. Turn setbacks into fuel for your growth. Everyone faces setbacks. No one is immune to disappointment, rejection, or failure. You try something and it doesn't work. You give your best effort and still fall short. You set a goal and life throws an obstacle in your way. It's frustrating, it's painful, but the setback isn't the end. In fact, it can be the beginning, if you choose to use it that way, because inside every setback is a choice. You can let it drain you, or you can turn it into fuel. The difference is how you think, how you respond, how you decide to move forward when it would be easier to give up. Most people view setbacks as personal. They think, I failed because I'm not good enough. But that kind of thinking weakens your ability to grow. It keeps you stuck in a loop of shame and self-doubt. But the truth is, setbacks are part of the process. They're not signs that you should quit. They're signals that you're trying, you're learning, you're moving. Nobody who's growing escapes failure. Nobody who pushes themselves gets everything right the first time. The difference between those who rise and those who fall isn't in how many setbacks they face, it's in how they handle them. A setback is feedback. It's data. It's life saying, this didn't work. What will you do differently now? And if you're paying attention, you'll find direction inside the difficulty. You'll find a better way, a sharper mindset, a clearer understanding of what needs to change. But only if you don't let the emotion of failure cloud your thinking. Only if you take a step back, breathe, and look at it with clarity. There's a mindset that says, if I didn't get it, I didn't deserve it. That mindset is destructive. You may have deserved it. You may have done everything right. But timing matters. Circumstances matter. And sometimes, even your best effort won't give you the result you wanted. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means the lesson's not done. It means there's more to learn, more to improve, more to refine. You don't need to fear setbacks. What you need is a better strategy to use them. When something doesn't go your way, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what did I expect to happen? Second, what actually happened? And third, what can I learn from this? Those 3 questions shift your mind from judgment to analysis, from emotion to logic, from frustration to growth. Sometimes a setback reveals a weakness, maybe in your preparation, maybe in your mindset, maybe in your habits. That's not a reason to quit. It's a reason to build, to get stronger, to fill the gaps. That awareness is a gift. It shows you exactly where to focus next. And if you do that work, the next time will be different, not because the world changed, but because you did. Other times, a setback isn't about your ability, it's about your patience. You're doing the right things, but the reward hasn't come yet. That's not failure. That's waiting. That's building endurance. And if you can stay consistent in those moments when nothing seems to be working, you develop a kind of inner strength that lasts. You build self-trust. You prove to yourself that your effort isn't dependent on results. That's rare. That's powerful. And that's how long-term growth happens. Don't let one tough season define you. One disappointment doesn't undo your effort. One rejection doesn't erase your value. Your worth isn't tied to your wins. It's tied to your willingness to keep showing up, even after things fall apart. That's what builds resilience. Not bouncing back once, but over and over, with your head high and your heart still open. You also need to stop comparing your setbacks to someone else's success. You're not on their path. You don't know their full story. You don't see their private struggles. What you see is the highlight reel. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe you're behind. But you're not behind. You're in the middle. And the middle always looks messy. Stay focused on your steps. Stay grounded in your own progress. Every successful person has a list of failures they rarely talk about. Times they doubted, times they got it wrong, times they felt like quitting, but they didn't. They turned every setback into fuel. They used the disappointment to dig deeper, to work smarter, to grow stronger, and you can do the same. You can either let failure define you, or you can let it shape you. You decide. There's something powerful that happens when you stop fearing failure. You stop holding back. You take more risks. You trust yourself more. You start to see each challenge as a part of the journey, not the end of it. That kind of mindset frees you. It removes the pressure to be perfect. It gives you permission to try, to learn, to adjust. And that's when growth becomes natural. That's when setbacks stop feeling like punishment and start feeling like practice. You also have to be careful with your language. Don't say, "I lost." Say, "I learned." Don't say, "It's over." Say, "I'm just getting started." How you speak to yourself during a setback matters more than what actually happened. Your words shape your focus, and your focus shapes your future. Talk to yourself with strength, not shame, with purpose, not pity, and don't rush the process. Growth takes time. Some lessons take longer to learn. Some setbacks take time to heal. Give yourself space to reflect, to regroup. But don't stay stuck. Don't stay down. Get back up with a new plan, with new insight, with more clarity than before. That's how you use a setback. Not by ignoring it. Not by pretending it didn't happen, but by facing it fully, and then using it to fuel your next move. The truth is, you're going to fall. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to aim high and come up short. But you're also going to get better. You're going to grow. You're going to rise. As long as you don't let setbacks make you smaller. As long as you keep choosing strength over surrender. This isn't about pretending the pain isn't real. It is. It stings. It disappoints. But you get to decide what comes next. Will the setback break you? Or will it build you? Will it make you bitter? Or will it make you better? Every setback brings a fork in the road. Choose the path that leads to growth. Choose the mindset that turns the fall into fuel. Because that's how you win. Not by never failing, but by refusing to stay down. Not by avoiding difficulty, but by learning from it. Not by chasing comfort, but by choosing growth over and over again. Until one day you look back and realize the setbacks weren't the end of your story. They were the reason you grew strong enough to write the next chapter. Chapter 9. Build unshakable belief in yourself. Daily believing in yourself is not something that magically appears one day. It doesn't come from someone's approval. It doesn't show up because everything is finally going right. It's something you build, deliberately, slowly, and with intention. It comes from what you say to yourself. It comes from what you do every single day. You don't wait for belief. You build it. One decision at a time. One choice. One act of courage. One moment where you refuse to give up on yourself. Too many people are waiting to feel confident before they start. They think belief will show up when things get easier. But belief doesn't show up first. It comes after you move. It grows through action. It grows through consistency. When you keep promises to yourself. When you follow through even when it's hard. That's when you start to build real belief. Not surface-level confidence, but a deep, steady trust in who you are and what you're capable of. This kind of belief isn't loud. It doesn't need to be shouted. It's quiet. It's calm. It's the voice in the back of your mind that says, "I've got this," not because it's easy, but because you've done the work. You've earned it. You've shown up when it was tough. You've stayed steady when doubt tried to take over, and now you don't need anyone to validate you. You already know. But this doesn't happen by accident. It happens by how you live your day. Every morning you wake up and take action toward your goals. You're casting a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you say no to distractions, every time you do the hard thing, you're building a foundation inside yourself. A solid belief that says, "I can depend on me." That's what matters most. Not what others think about you, but what you think about you. Because the world will always have opinions. Some will doubt you, some will misunderstand you, some will try to box you in. But as long as you believe in your direction, none of that can stop you. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to keep moving forward, one honest step at a time. And the truth is, belief is built in the hard moments. Anyone can feel good when things are going well. But what about when you fail? What about when things fall apart? What about when progress is slow? That's when you need belief the most. And that's when you build it, by choosing to keep going, even when it would be easier to quit. There will be days when you don't feel good enough. Days when everything in your mind tells you to stop. That's not weakness. That's part of the process. Don't expect belief to mean you'll never doubt. Expect it to be the reason you move forward anyway, even when the fear shows up, even when the doubt gets loud. You still act. You still rise. And in doing that, you prove to yourself that fear doesn't control you. Self-belief isn't built on fake positivity. It's built on proof. You don't need to tell yourself lies. You just need to remind yourself of the truth. Look at how far you've come. Look at what you've overcome. Look at the times you were scared, but acted anyway. That's real strength. That's what belief is made of. Not perfection, but persistence. And you don't have to build it all at once. You don't need to overhaul your life in a day. What you need is consistency. Show up today. Do one thing that makes you stronger. Speak one word of encouragement to yourself. Cross off one task. That's how belief grows. Day after day, choice after choice, until it becomes a part of who you are. Start paying attention to your inner dialogue. What you say to yourself matters. If your mind is full of criticism, you won't feel strong. If you're always focused on what's missing, you won't see your own progress. So shift your focus. Talk to yourself like someone you care about. Encourage yourself. Back yourself. Be the person in your corner, because no one else can do that for you like you can. You also need to separate mistakes from identity. You're going to mess up. You're going to make poor choices sometimes. That doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're human. Learn from it. Adjust. But don't let it become your story. You are not your failure. You are your comeback. You are your response. That's what defines you. When you believe in yourself, the way you move through life changes. You stop seeking permission. You stop shrinking to fit in. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You walk differently. You speak with purpose. You act with clarity. And people notice, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're being you fully and without hesitation. But belief requires repetition. You can't build it once and expect it to last. You've got to reinforce it every day, through your habits, through your words, through your effort. Every time you choose growth, you deepen your trust in yourself. Every time you keep going when it gets tough, you harden that belief, until one day it becomes unshakable, not because everything is perfect, but because you've proven who you are. This is your responsibility. No one can build this for you, but you don't need anyone's help to start. You already have what you need. You have your mind, you have your choices, you have your will, and you have today. That's enough. That's your foundation. Build on it. Some days it will feel like you're not making progress. That's okay. Keep going. Some days the doubt will creep in again. That's normal. Don't listen to it. Keep choosing strength. Keep choosing belief. Even when it's quiet. Even when no one sees it. Because belief doesn't need an audience. It just needs your commitment. And the more you build it, the more you'll notice the shift. You'll start taking bigger steps. You'll start setting bigger goals. You'll stop settling. You'll stop second-guessing. Because now you know who you are. You've built a foundation of daily belief that no criticism can shake, no failure can erase, and no challenge can destroy. Chapter 10. Stay consistent. Even when motivation fades, consistency is what separates those who succeed from those who only dream. Motivation is powerful. It lights a fire inside you. It gives you energy, excitement, and drive. But motivation doesn't last. It fades. It dips. Sometimes it disappears completely. If you rely on motivation alone, you will find yourself stopping, starting, giving up, and feeling stuck. But consistency, that steady effort day after day, is what truly moves you forward. It doesn't depend on feeling good or inspired. It depends on commitment. And that commitment is what wins. Most people expect motivation to carry them through. They wait for that rush of energy before they act. When motivation is high, they work hard. But the moment motivation dips, they slow down or stop altogether. That's the cycle that holds many back. It's a trap, because life doesn't always give you motivation. Sometimes it gives you stress, fatigue, or distraction. Those are the moments when consistency matters most. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. It's about putting one foot in front of the other, even if the progress feels small or invisible. It's about trusting the process, not the mood. And when you build this habit, something powerful happens. Your actions no longer depend on how you feel. They become automatic. They become part of who you are. The key to consistency is building routines and habits that support your goals. When you create a system, it's easier to stay steady. You don't need to make big decisions every day about what to do. You already have a plan. That plan keeps you moving, even when your motivation is low. It removes the need to feel inspired every time. And it creates momentum, which fuels itself. It's also important to remember why you started. Your purpose is the fuel that lasts longer than motivation. When you connect with why your goal matters, you gain something deeper, something that holds you accountable, even when the excitement fades. That reason reminds you that your effort isn't about instant gratification. It's about long-term success. It keeps you anchored when the road gets tough. Another strategy is to break big goals into small, manageable steps. When motivation fades, big goals can feel overwhelming. But small steps don't require a lot of energy or willpower. They are simple actions you can take every day, and each small step adds up. Over time, these little wins build confidence and reinforce your consistency. It helps to track your progress. Seeing what you've done gives you proof that your efforts matter. It's a reminder that even on days you don't feel motivated, you're still moving forward. Tracking progress keeps your focus on growth, not just feelings. It shows that success is a result of consistent action, not random bursts of energy. You'll face days when distractions pull you away, days when tiredness steals your focus, days when doubt tells you to quit. That's normal. The difference is in how you respond. Instead of letting those days stop you, use them to practice resilience. Adjust your plan if needed, but keep going. Don't wait for a perfect day or perfect mood. Use what you have now. Self-discipline is the bridge between goals and results. It's the inner voice that says, "I'm going to do this even if I don't feel like it." Discipline grows when you commit to consistency. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And once you build discipline, motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. Sometimes people mistake motivation for inspiration, and they chase that feeling endlessly. But inspiration can be unreliable. It comes and goes. What's reliable is the commitment you make to yourself. When you're consistent, you don't need motivation to act. You act because that's what you do. It becomes a habit, a part of your identity. Building consistency also means being patient. Results don't happen overnight. Sometimes it feels like you're putting in effort without seeing change. That's when many give up. But steady, daily effort compounds. It creates momentum. It leads to breakthroughs. If you keep going, you will reach your goal. If you stop, you won't. It's helpful to prepare for low motivation days. Have a plan for how you'll act when motivation fades. That might mean setting smaller goals, focusing on easier tasks, or reminding yourself of your purpose. The key is to keep moving, no matter what. Even small action is progress. Surround yourself with people who value consistency. When you're around others who keep showing up, it's easier to stay committed. Their habits influence yours. Their mindset supports yours. Community can be a powerful tool to maintain your steady effort. Remember, consistency doesn't mean never missing a day. Life happens. What matters is getting back on track quickly. Don't let a slip become a full stop. Forgive yourself and return to your habits. That resilience is part of consistency. When you practice consistency, you're training your mind to trust yourself. You build confidence in your ability to follow through. That confidence leads to bigger goals and bolder actions. And the cycle continues. At the end of the day, consistency is a choice. It's a decision to keep going, no matter how you feel. It's a commitment to your future self. You may not feel motivated today, but your future depends on what you do now. Every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to winning in every situation. The power of consistency is quiet but unstoppable. It's the reason some people achieve great things while others only dream. It's the secret weapon you have in your mind. Train it daily, protect it fiercely. Because when motivation fades, consistency carries you across the finish line.